This is the ClePunk podcast. This is dedicated to the Cleveland punk scene, a scene that planted its flag in the 1970s and that flag still stands today. You'll hear from the bands, the characters, the contributors, the lake rats, the gypsies of the Dead Man's Curve, and the dwellers of the East, West, and South Side. We let them tell the story like it isn't like it was. There's no holding back. What it was ClePunk. Welcome back to the ClePunk podcast. Today we're joined by the two founding members of the Dissidents, Scott Stemple and Paul Slava. There they are. You got their names down. Scott put his last name down.
Yeah, I should have put my last name. They'll fuck it up anyway. They'll fuck it up.
Scotty, I haven't seen you since like 2000. I haven't seen Scotty since like 2000. Who's got the fucking phone?
I had it down. I had it on Do Not Fucking Disturb. All right, I got it now.
Fucking train.
Who is it?
It's Waddy from the studio. It's an elderly lady. She needs help.
Lord. Fucking took 13 seconds to go fucking Dixie. All right. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter when I last saw Scotty, but I did see him about 2001. I was up mixing the ClePunk comp with Gary Lupico, the late Gary Lupico, the late great Gary Lupico, back in like 2001. And Scott came over and we got to meet, and that was cool. And I haven't seen Paul since, 15 years ago or so. I was at fucking Gulfstream Park.
It was at the Gulfstream.
On the horses. My buddies and I from Massachusetts just came down to go to Key West and get fucked up for about a week. And of course, we had to stop at Gulfstream and play some trifectas. And Paul met us there. It was the day of the Sunshine Millions. It was fucking great.
It was. It was a good race there. In fact, I used to meet a lot of my Clee buddies there. Andy used to make a pilgrimage to the Florida Derby, because that's usually the precursor to the whole, stakes races.
One of the four big ones.
Yeah, usually the winner there goes on to win, Kentucky
automatically.
Derby. And yeah, exactly. So it's a big race. And man, I lived right around the block, so it was fun. My dad, Slim, is actually, there was a time he was cremated and his ashes were put 1 foot past the finish line. I thought that was so cool. And they had the bugle out there, like they did a taps and then call to the post. I'm like, what the fuck? They probably don't even do that now. But back then they had a contingency.
Every 9 minutes before every race, they play Boots and Saddles.
1989. And so I'd always tell the kids when I'd go there, Daddy's going to go visit Grandpa. And they knew what that meant. So
he wasn't playing the slots in that dumb casino that's up above the track.
No, he would hate that.
Because Gulfstream is a fucked up place because of that. I mean, it's beautiful. But boy,
he was a handicapper,
it's a casino with a horse track. It's not a horse track anymore, like old Calder used to be in places like that. Hey, we can talk about horses all day, but
well, I
don't want to bore these fucking people.
Take me down to Thistledown, when I was like 8, and said it would say, take me down to the paddock and see what horse did a good shit, who was wearing blinders or not, who had their legs taped. I mean, he taught me fucking how to handicap. And all I had to do to get all the Cokes and chips as I want is to take this little envelope to a man across the way, some cigar chewing dude. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I found out I was running numbers for Slim back then. But I was just high on Coke and chips, so I was cool with that,
Like Coca-Cola. You weren't fucking blowing lines at 12 years old. No, because you guys were St. Joe's. I mean, what the fuck did you know about drugs? I mean, you weren't mentor kids. We would have been fucking blowing lines at 13. But
that's funny.
Thistledown was like a fucking prison when I went there. Cheese took me there once. I was like, I want to go to Thistledown. So I got into horse racing long after I left Ohio. I'd been to Saratoga, and I've been to really nice race courses, and then all of a sudden,
a nice one.
Oh, sorry.
Would you go down there to hit on some old cougars or what?
No, I used to make too much money at Saratoga, man. That's why Michael Hudson got me to write fucking articles for his paper, because I was a handicap in Saratoga. So, he'd call me for picks. Among Michael's other vices, he liked to put a shekel on a pony once in a while. So then he said, "You got to write for my fucking paper." I was like, all right.
Well, I miss Cleveland, but then, I mean, still, you guys are a little behind. This is what we heard from Scott Stemple, when he joined in. So, they're a little bit behind technology, maybe. But otherwise, it's still a cool town.
Scotty thought his fucking screen was going to be backwards when it renders. He was like,
"Oh right, yeah, he
you can't
did."
say
Yeah.
"Kush."
And that's not his best look when it's backwards.
Scotty's he's like a fucking mercenary. So we've gotten nowhere with the Dissidents yet, which is kind of a metaphor.
No, I know, right? It's ClePunk, isn't it? Oh my god.
So what part of town were you guys? What part of town were y'all born in, man? What part of Cleveland were y'all from?
We were right on the lake. You call it like Collinwood. I called my section Old World Village. It was a babushka land. We, lovingly referred it to as. A lot of Eastern European immigrants. It was right on the lake off of 185th Street. I could walk to my high school, usually had to, until I knew people that had cars to get rides. And Scott, you were more in Collinwood proper, right?
Yeah, well, North Collinwood, 152nd Street. Yes. Right. About 3 miles from where Paul was at.
So you guys didn't know each other until St. Joe's?
High school,
yes.
Yep.
High school, yes.
Okay.
Went to different grade schools, both low Catholic, grade schools. He went to St. Jerome's. I went to St. Paul's. So very similar upbringing. We had like both 2 other siblings, an older brother and older sister.
His older brother that turned us on to cool shit, We had a cool older brother that turned us on to Bowie and Alice Cooper and, and Roxy Music and all that,
So it wasn't too long before like we found each other, but it was actually at a football practice. And the funniest story, man, like I immediately, I caught this dude, right? And he was there like acting really weird. And I saw him trying to bounce a football like a basketball. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey," and he just looks me deadpan in the face and says, "My doggy fucks kitty cats." And I was like, what the fuck? Just this weird non sequitur. And I knew then, I go, "Oh, this is my best friend." I go like fucking. And then we started talking and finding out all the things we had in common. And that was it, man. It was done from then on. Yeah.
Was this high school football or y'all played like
high school football?
You guys played at fucking St. Joe's?
Well, of course, man. I went on to play track afterwards for a couple of years.
Well, you don't.
Record.
I was in the track. You didn't play track. You
played track.
I played track. It was my Hot Wheels. Yeah, I played football. I was
high school football at St. Joe's. That must have been my St. Joe's.
It was the toughest football team. Do you know how many NFL players goddamn were born from that program?
From St. Joe's? Start fucking naming them. I know Clark played basketball.
Elvis. Bob Golick, all the Golick.
He went to St. Oh, he did. His brother went to fucking.
Mike Golick, too.
No, Mike went there. I thought Bob went to Ignatius. He went to St. Joe's.
Desmond Howard, too, running kickoff back in the Super Bowl, remember?
There you go, right? Elvis Gerbach. And a lot of Zeelies that made it to, on defense and stuff. No, I'm telling you, man, it's amazing. Basketball, Clark Kellogg.
No, basketball. Dude, you guys whip Menor by fucking 30.
Yeah, he would have made the pros.
50.
He got his knees fucked up in goddamn OSU, right?
I met Clark in San Antonio. We talked about St. Joe's. I met him in the middle of San Antonio in a mall, and I was like, "Dude, fucking Clark Kellogg," and he was like.
And then half of those fuckers ended up on ESPN. So it was a good athletic program, but they were smart motherfuckers too. They taught us.
This is interesting about St. Joe's is there was a lot of St. Joe graduates in the punk rock scene in Cleveland. Like Chris Sharmak was in the Easter Monkeys, Brandon Black and the Duff Mix, Anton Fear, who played with Perubu and
Monty Carmont.
The Monty Carmont, Danny Patrisig. So Lenny
That's interesting. No, that's
interesting.
I brought this up to Tommy Miller last week, but I always ask because there were a couple high schools that had, and I'm not just pimping Menor High because I was only there for 2 fucking years. My junior,
you brought it up like 6 times already.
But we were better in football in St. Joe's. That's for fuck sure. I mean, crying out loud, we could fucking handicap y'all, fucking give you 20 at freaking St. Joe's. We'd still whip your cocks in the fucking.
Because we were terrible footballs.
Well, we were a fucking public school. We had freaking 3,000 kids at that school in 10, 11, 12th grade. I mean, that was there was no freshman year when I was.
We were an
there.
all-boys high school, man, so we needed to take our aggressions out some way. It was all pent-up sexual.
I heard about that.
We just hit stuff as hard as we could and run real fast.
Yeah.
You go show up to fucking Frazier's 2 days in Menor, you'd be fucking running, spitting blood after about 10 seconds.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, like, but you know, I won't bring, you know, so, but yeah, but St. Joe's was one of those high schools, like Lakewood had pedigree, and I will say, you know, pimping it, but you know. What are the Dead Boys, the Wild Giraffes, the Offbeats, Prison Shake, the Generics, you know, Gem, the Revolvers, New Salem Witch Hunters? What do those all have in common? Those are all fucking Menor High bands, man. I mean, they weren't Menor High bands because I don't think, but the Wild Giraffes were the only
dance
band.
or anything. We never played prom, did we, Scott?
No, we didn't. No, what I think though, and I never got a confirmation. I asked Craig Bell about it. It was, I think Jim Jones saw the Mirrors playing at St. Joe's the day he joined.
That was my brother used to book the bands there.
Oh, and I think it was, okay, see, and I think that was where Jim Jones saw the Mirrors.
That's a connection, yeah.
Craig Bell was on his way to going to Vietnam, and he replaced Craig Bell.
He also he was friends with Brian Sands, like Brian Kinchy.
Yeah,
so
right.
He got Moses and Mook built in there, and then he lost his job because they're going, who the fuck are you hiring here for like the prom and dances? It's like the weirdest bands ever, you know. And he was like just loving it because otherwise, would you have like Rainbow Canyon and Backseat Romance and whatever? I don't know all the Horse Feathers, all kinds of shit.
Horse Feathers.
Remember those? Yeah.
Rapscallion.
Well, you got boys dancing with boys at the prom. I guess you're gonna fucking expect.
No, we had Villa Angela.
What was was Ursuline your sister? That was your girls' school because they're always affiliated with some chick school.
So we had mixers with them, and then they would be our females if guys didn't dress in drag for all the musicals and plays that were put on. So,
which usually wasn't a problem.
Yeah. No, that's why I fell in love with musicals and theater because I was in the art club and we had to paint the scenery for behind the scenes on the stage. And then I'd see the girls and I'd be high in a scaffold and see them like dressing and changing between things. I go, I love the theater.
Oh, it's a good thing we didn't have cell phones. You'd be in fucking prison right now.
Exactly, right. I'd be canceled by now. Before I graduated. We lived a whole double life because we'd be gigging. You know, we had to get fake IDs for to play out. Back in the day, you didn't have.
We wanted to see bands. You know?
Oh, they caught on, huh?
You know, we had to like actually like get real fake IDs. So we got these really bad ones that we took to Vegas. And actually, Scott's mom helped us. We had to take photos, and they were black and white. And we said we were from Michigan or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it was
three Tunisian camel jockeys, you know, type of stuff. And we actually, though they passed, we had to give them to cops in Vegas because they found us wandering on the strip. You know, whatever. That's a whole nother story. We'll maybe talk about that later in the thing. But we had fake IDs because I used to change people's birth certificates. So we actually had real IDs afterwards, like that. No one.
We had them when we went to Vegas. We had real IDs.
Did we? Okay, we had those.
Because when we got stopped by the police,
for a while before it expired, I had like two different like ages on my IDs. Luckily, it was only over 18 at the time, not 21. So, but yeah, because there was only nightclubs and bars to like get into. So
we wanted to see bands. You know, we saw the Cramps and the Black Flag and X, you know, we wanted to see.
Yeah, it was no all ages show.
And we were 16, so we had to get in, you know. And there was no all age shows, right? There was no all age.
That's a secret, so it was like weird. Like we didn't even like resonate with our like peers because they're doing one thing there in high school, and we're like fucking gigging on like on a Tuesday or a Thursday, coming home at like fucking 2 or 3 in the morning. Oh my God. Remember, Scott, we almost got busted because we kept it from all the other bands, too. We didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, they thought we were older. They all thought we were like 20 years old.
Right. So we had this regular gig where we were opening at the Flip Side. And we would open, I think, what was it, Tuesdays and Thursdays? Or
with the Offbeats one night and the Duffnicks the next night.
Duffnicks the other night. So we're with the Duffnicks one time, right? And me and Scott are just fucking like hurrying, trying to get gear like tied up afterwards. And I think it was like Scott or it was like fucking Say Black or something said, "Oh, hey, dudes, what are you late for school?" And we both looked at each other and said, "Shit, we're busted." And he goes, "No, that's cool. What college y'all go to?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, we're in high school." And I said, "Well, this is it. We might as well tell it." They go, "High school? No fucking way. They go, get the fuck out of here. We got it. After that, we never had to stay. They took care of us. They thought it was cool. And I try and beat my dad back because my mom was cool with it. She knew all I wanted to do was play out. But my dad would have been another story. And he'd be coming home from bartending around that time. So my mom would try and sneak me in a side door real fast before Slim came home, or that'd be the end of me.
Slim would be wondering why you weren't fucking running numbers at the freaking ass punk club. You know, I mean, what the fuck? I mean, these guys have no money.
He was
I
so
got
concerned.
bad grades regardless.
What's that?
I got bad grades regardless if I stayed out late or not. So
Well, Scott's dad was a fucking cop. So
yeah.
I think an ex-cop by the time, right? We were older. I don't know.
No, he retired right before we graduated.
He did?
But,
Okay.
He retired in like 81.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, my dad was a Cleveland policeman for 25 years. So,
What precinct was he in? See if I ever got
he was
busted
in
by
the
his
tow
ass.
unit. He was in the tow unit downtown.
Yeah, but he went through like fucking house riots and shit, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he went through all the right in Glenville. He went through all the
His big story he bragged about is like pulling over these black guys or whatever, and they said, "Hey, man, do you know who we are? They're the fucking OJs." He goes, "I don't care who you fucking are," and then call them the N-word or whatever. And then,
Well, it was racial profiling. They pulled him over because there was a bunch of black guys with in a beat up station wagon with a bunch of gear in the back. So obviously they took it, they stole it, right? So they pulled him over, and it was the OJs, and they were just starting out. So
The love train.
that's right, exactly right.
No, man, I grew up on that shit. I was going to ask you, actually, that was the question I had that I was going to just pass by, but since you brought up the OJs, because I grew up listening to AM music in Cleveland, then I moved down to Columbus, and then I came back, and AM was out by 77 or 6 when I came back up there. But growing up in Cleveland, you know, you always listen to Winds or CKLW.
Wins,
I
yeah.
didn't listen to GAR, any of that shit. Now, was that too late for you guys? I mean, I'm just, you know,
No, I did too. But then we discovered we had the advent of fucking college radio.
Radio, man.
Yeah.
That's where me and Scott like really got.
It's still great now. All these years later, it's still great, man.
Yeah,
We're still got
WRUW,
college radio.
CSB, WUJC.
Yeah, they're still great. They're still great now, all of them, man. We're so lucky to have them.
So
Yeah,
we
well,
actually
we-
got, because one of our songs, and this might go into, you could play the song or whatever afterwards, but Dead Air, we found out that Catherine Butler, who had a show on RUW, had a show called Dead Air. So we had called and said, "Hey, man, I think we got the song for you." She ended up playing that as her, like, you know, fucking, like, you know, sign-on song for the rest of the time. And it was like, oh, that is so cool. She loved it, man. So, yeah, it was called Dead Air, and her show was called Dead Air. And it's all about the radio. And
Just coincidence.
right? That was sort of inspired.
Yeah, it was.
Inspired by college radio, because it wasn't professional. Like, you'd get a bunch of people fucking up. And so that song.
Especially that. It was very not professional at all, you know.
Exactly. But they played the cool shit. Oh my God. I mean, I listened to half of my new shit inspired by like Larry Collins, you know, and Lars and all the like really cool stuff on the college radios, and Michigan Mom, like just loving like Howard Devoto and Magazine and shit like that. It was good. You know, it was good stuff. So that's, listening, just finding new music was either going to a record store. You know, there was no fucking online or anything streaming. You went, you read the stuff on like Trouser Press or any of the other rags. Even like Scott, your mom gave you like, I think, a subscription to Rolling Stone like forever. I mean, I don't know why she loved it.
Yeah.
But,
bought my guitar too.
Yeah. So that and just perusing record stores. But like, I think the number one thing came from like just listening to new music being previewed on RUW, and then having a cassette player and just fucking recording off of those.
Yeah.
And
that's a big difference from even 4 years before that. Like,
exactly,
from the 70s, from the late 70s, 76, 7, when we started listening to punk, like there was no, college.
Nothing, right?
If there was college, nobody played it. And stupid ass, fucking
No
Kid
support.
Leo and those assholes.
They
didn't
actually
play.
support. Yeah, Kid Leo. Fuck.
Well, they haven't said they're frauds. I mean, they didn't play that shit. You should hear them now on fucking Little Steven and shit. Kid Leo's like fucking playing the Ramones and fucking Black Flag, and you're like going, what the fuck? I remember Enkler and I calling the fucking radio station going, you ever playing a Sex Pistols song ever? And they'd fucking hang up on you. You'd be like, fuck MMS, those fucking pussies. But anyway, was the Dissidents your first band, or did you guys fuck around before that with shit? Or
Scott
Dissidents was it?
I started the first band when I was 14. I was Bumblebee, and that actually morphed into the Dissidents. So it was me, John DeArce, Rick Chabonsky, Mike Weaver, Kevin Nagel. Kevin and Mike left, and me and John and Rick kept going as the Psychotic Idiots. And I gave Paul a tape one time. We met at St. Joe's.
Oh, that did it for me.
He gave it back, and he said, "Can I be in your band?" And I'm like, "Well, what can you do?" And he's like, "Well, I have a little." He had one of those little reed organs, that you play.
Air-powered organ.
Right, that you play fucking Silent Night on. Yeah, I'm like, well, yeah, bring it over. So we put a mic on it, and that's how he got into the band.
And then I was supposed to be a vocalist, right? He just wanted to concentrate on.
Well, you just wanted to be in the band. That's fair enough. And then
I brought over a bunch of Bowie songs and everything else. We went through it, and it just worked out that way. And then John DeArce, who was our bassist early on, ended up leaving. He joined the Air Force, so he just said, "Nah, you got to fucking be a bass player now." And I go, "Okay." And I swear to God, he threw just his songbook to me, a diagram that had chords on it, and his Sex Pistols, book were tab out. And he said, "Here, learn these." I came back the next fucking day. I learned all of them, and we jammed Sex Pistols, I think, for the rest of that.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed that.
Just song by song, and what a great way to learn, man. So I was definitely self-taught. It was my first band, and I just fucking loved it, man.
Honestly, Paul, you took it and you ran. I mean, you were really. I just gave you this is what you need to do, and you did it. So I mean, it was really. You became a bass player really quick.
We learned to play on stage. I mean, it was so fun.
Yeah. So
we cut our teeth on stage.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Seen plenty of that, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Right?
At least you're in a punk rock genre, so it worked. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Well. That's
sometimes it didn't too. So
I don't know.
And then
so
DIY, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, mentality was. I mean, we got famous. I think semi-famous before we even played a note on the damn stage, because we were just it was fun to put out flyers. We met Jim Jones downtown. We ended up giving him that tape. That little did we know, it made the rounds. He was loving it, made copies, got it to all his friends. And we just wanted to make him laugh, man, because he'd come in and he'd laugh. And that's all we wanted to do. We'd come in and I'd make these weird fanzines and shit. And he would take them and just giggle. And we just got the biggest kick out of it.
Really lucky for us, Jim Jones. The Easter Monkeys were just starting. They weren't even the Easter Monkeys yet. They were Desperate Energy. Remember, Paul? Desperate Energy. And Jones liked us. He thought we were funny, and he heard our tape, and he just helped us, and he got us our first gig at the Pop Shop.
He gave us a break. Yeah.
When we were 16 years old, and we played the Pop Shop, the WRW benefit.
No, it wasn't. It was Clean Magazine. Yeah,
Clean Magazine benefit at the Pop Shop.
And then we used to play with the Easter Monkeys, and they said, "Nah, fuck that." They said it's all going up Jim Ellis's nose or something. I was like, okay.
Chris came and played with us, remember? Because we
didn't want to, and he said, and Jones said, "No, I'm not going to even go there and support this." And Chris said, "I'll fucking come." And I go, "Cool." So he played with us that first night. Yeah.
Right. So.
And we were good. Best advice we got was James Patricig, because we're playing originals, right? And we were fucking up a couple times and all looking at each other going, "Oh, fuck."
It was Lupico.
Was it? So we said afterwards, he goes, "Dude, no one would have even known that you fucked up. You're just telegraphing it." He goes, "These are all originals. People wouldn't know. They're all fucking tapping their feet, bobbing their head." He goes, "Don't do that." And that was a great fucking tip, right? It was a good lesson.
Yeah, he said, every time you guys made a mistake, everybody looked around. He said, "Just stop doing that," So that was what he told us. And I still live by that, just keep going, man. Because
there's no any fucking difference. Yeah.
Well, you still make mistakes. You never get past that. So, especially in touchy situations. So you just.
Especially when you're young.
Act like that was supposed to happen,
Well, yeah. And Gary was a great coach. I mean, he really was. And you can't, tell people this all the time. You can't learn how to coach. You're born a coach. I mean, you see things in a different context.
Those guys were so encouraging to us because we were really young, man. We were just teenagers, and those guys just really helped us, a lot. I mean,
most of them were like over 10 years older than us, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
some even older.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
we're hanging out with them, and we forgot, like, we're drinking at Mosier's when we were like, what, 16, 17? And it was like, what the hell, man? What are we doing? But it was cool. It just seemed normal to us, It was like, that's all right.
And the
Well, I
alcohol
want to
thing
take.
was great.
Dude. Oh, we
Let's
had
take-
such
let's
stage
take-
fright. We had to get fucked up, man, before.
I
Stage
fucked up
fright.
for 40 years. But go ahead.
You love stage fright from early punk days when there were fucking 8 people in this.
Yeah, right.
Bunch. You're like, oh yeah, I'm fucking really nervous for the dog that's running around and the 3 drunks at the bar and the other ones that are pissing, fucking writing graffiti in the bathroom. But
Well, Paul
hey, I want to
mentioned-
listen. I want to cut and listen to School Days and Modern Emotions and
Perfect, yeah.
take a little breathe here and then listen to those songs. We're gonna come back and talk. We got a shitload of more questions
All right.
for.
School
Paul
days,
and Scott.
take a little listen at my keyboards.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Paul's
all
open.
right. So we're going to listen to those 2 cuts, and we'll be right back. Thanks.
I thought this school was through. I hate my teacher and I hate you. Forget this fucking class. Just kiss my ass. Take up God class. Kiss my fucking ass. Take up God class. Kiss my fucking ass. From English to lab, I'd rather be a scab. You can't make me wear a tie. Just go and die. Pack up, God class, kiss my fucking ass. Pack up, God class, kiss my fucking ass.
So welcome back, buckos and fuggos. We have just heard School Days and Modern Emotions, and those were both released on CD. I don't know if an album ever came out of this, but it's called
Yes,
Conformity
okay.
with More. Did a vinyl version come out?
Vinyl and CD, yes.
God bless Frank. God bless.
Yeah, God bless. Absolutely, God bless Frank.
He had
And
a streaming too. I think we made most of the money on streaming too. He had it on the Apple and Amazon and shit like that
we
for a
still
while.
get those. We still get those emails from Frank
For some-
every
for
couple
some
quarters
reason,
and
yeah,
say,
right?
"Hey, we owe you freaking $82."
No net profit due at this time. But
Yeah.
we supposedly we were very hot in Germany. Especially you'll probably hear it coming up later, but our Detention seemed to be a really like popular song and caught the ear of a lot of people. And we were on like the Ox fanzine in Germany. They like the punk rock, and we fit in with the krautrock, I guess, or something.
I don't know.
And later on, I don't know if you want to talk about that now, Scott, but that was like the single that we finally made money as a band, like what, almost 40 years later, 35 years later.
Okay,
And,
so the nice thing about the production is when you introduce 2 fucking songs and the idiots start talking about some shit that's coming 5 fucking minutes from now, but that's okay. I'm just storyboarding here.
Okay, well, anyways, I hope you caught the
So
little people.
basically, we're not going to listen to School Days and Modern Emotions anymore. We're just going to bag those 2 motherfuckers,
No,
and then
those
we're
are
going
the
to put
ones-
the other one in because he wants to talk about that shit now. But
No.
This is kind of
No,
like
that was good.
this is what
I'm-
Gary would be pissed off about. He'd look and go, "Now, why did you just mention that? Like, why did you just say that everybody fucked up?" I'm like, "Because they're stepping on their dicks, man. They're just fucking talking about shit.
Yeah.
I gave them a motherfucking outline, and here they are, just
Rapid fire.
fucking
Yeah.
St. Joe's."
No, that's right. Hey,
God.
it was.
Our first day
keyboards
as
were funny.
our first day as a Dissidents, we had a half day of school. Me, John, and Paul and Rick went to my house. We set up stereo microphones and a tape deck and recorded 10 original songs. And it was Dead Air. School Days was one of them. But we did a bunch. Me and Paul wrote Mute in the Gene Pool together. He had the words, I wrote the music. We recorded all these. And School Days was one, we never did it like that well again because it's total teen angst. It's just me saying fuck school, basically. Fuck school. So, and
people seem to get off, especially Jim Jones. They all loved
like it now.
the weird beat from fucking Jablonski.
It has that.
We called the Mutant, and believe me, he didn't do it on purpose. I mean, that's the only way he knew how to drum. Plus, he said he had a dead elbow. What the fuck ever that was, but I guess he had some fusions or whatever after a break, and he couldn't do it, so he would drum like a fucked up drummer monkey toy or something. And
He describes like 80% of the drummers in the world, by the way.
right, well, exactly. I mean, but it made a weird rhythmic like thing, and I guess they picked up on that and just thought it was so funny. In fact, when we had another gig later on, they said, no, we got to request this guy because we want him to try and capture that old recording. And he's the only guy that could do it. And I was like, okay. We ended up calling him out or no? Kaz ended up doing that, I guess, instead. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but...
And now, do you guys consistently write in the same way? Like one of y'all wrote lyrics, one of y'all wrote music? Or did it just, you come to the practice and someone's got a full song, someone's got a half song, or was there a consistent role, or did you just plow through it?
It was a little bit all of it. I wrote a lot of songs, but Paul would write lyrics and a lot of times Kaz would write a lot of songs too. Kaz wrote a lot of stuff too. So
early on, I thought it was funny that we were trying almost to assign homework because Scott had the most songs, right? I started writing, and we both said, "Hey guys, you guys got to contribute too." And like for some reason, everyone had homework to like go and write a song, which was kind of goofy. Whatever. I think like Jablonski even tried, and we just laughed at it. It was like really weird. The dude was like remedial at best, and he couldn't spell, he couldn't write, and it was the weirdest like fucking song, and we just kind of laughed at it and like goofed. I think we even tried a recording of it or whatever. I don't know what it was, but it was like I see they bug, I see whatever. I don't know. It was some weird ass shit. But what did DRC come up with? He what was his?
Prisoner of My Mind. Remember that? And
there you go. Yeah,
a few good things.
Yeah.
But in those early days too, we just kind of played. We just went along. We really didn't rehearse any of that. We just kind of just played, and I sang, and recorded it.
How often did you guys practice? Like most of us, we were just
early on. We did every day after
drugs
school.
and playing
I
music.
think We tried every day after school. And what was a drag, that's how we lost. We would call like Ricky, our fucking drummer, and he'd always be busy. And we were just like, oh my God. So we spent a couple times, just me and him. And then he left his set in the basement. So like one of us would be tapping on a hi-hat. One of us would be, tapping on the bass drum, remember, just for rhythm. And we just to practice and come up with like, some songs. And we needed to find a drummer. And then it was this whole process of auditioning. Right. And that was fun. Oh my God. We went through how many people? Some famous people too.
We got
Scrubs
from the lead singer of the Impalers. She came over and played drums with us.
Oh my God. She pounded
he seems to know Scrubs well.
No. She was like back in the late 70s. You need to see her at Fitzpatrick's in the freaking.
She was, right?
She was
a fixture.
I remember her from who was the other one? Fucking Swasti. They would be at the what the fuck? The Disasto, I mean, you'd see them there raising hell. One of them always had a flag they were running around with and freaking tearing it up, and it's like, whatever, okay. But, no. And they'd come into the record store, because I worked at Record Rendezvous, but out in the mall, out at Great Lakes Mall.
Oh, no kidding, yeah.
Yeah, so
Scott,
I worked
isn't
at
that where you got your pillbox at the Great Lakes Mall?
No, that was at Record Den in Newberry's.
Record Den, Newberry's,
that's... Oh yeah,
but we made a pilgrimage to Great Lakes,
right? Yeah, to get
there wasn't much there. I mean, we had a decent. That's where I met Digidio and shit, But I was at Record Theater long before that. Like that's where I started. I took Helmeggy's job basically about a year after Jeff went to tour with the Dead Boys, and Record Theater hired me. I walked in. I was cooking at Sambo's and fucking and I walked in to Judy Morgan. I had a Sex Pistols T-shirt on. This was like early '77. And Judy Morgan said, "Are you a punk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't fucking want a punk. I'm wearing a fucking shirt, It's like, I mean, what was a punk in '77? You weren't walking around fucking saying you were a punk rocker. It was like you just liked the music, It's like, yeah, sure. She was like, "We need a replacement for Helmeggy." I was like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, it's better than cooking at Sambo's," which was what Brandon and I were doing together. We were both cooked at Sambo's.
That's where you met
That's how
Brandon,
I met Zart, But so who played what in your band? Like, so who? Did you guys switch shit up, or were you guys both guitar players? Was one of y'all? I know you said you played keyboards for a while, but who played bass?
I learned bass, and I kind of stuck with that. I noticed you were talking to Cheese before and saying, "Oh my God, you're the first person I ever knew that wrote on bass." I wrote songs on bass. I did.
Well, no, I told him I was making fun of him, saying that people didn't write on bass, but I was doing that because it was Cheese and we're really good friends. But I told him later in the interview that absolutely it makes sense to write on bass when you're a bass player because it's just fucking notes, man. It's just notes, and you're doing it. But Frank told me there was a good story about the first bass you got. Am I mistaken there? Or? No,
tell him the truth. Tell him the truth.
He called me the Marcel Duchamp of Cleveland because I found my bass in the garbage, and I said, "Okay, this is what I need to do." That's the glorified version. I'd like to keep it, but the truth is that I think that what I did is I had to sell my fucking organ, and it was like Scott's mom used to have all these garage sales, and she said, "Hey, if I sell this, whatever, and keep part of it," I'm like, "Yeah." And then she's the one, right? Didn't she find the bass or whatever at another?
Well, it was in trading times, and we went and got it. She drove us to get it, but you got it for like $30 or whatever. So
it was, yeah. And then, man, I'd paint up that thing and stickers, and hey, that was my bass I had for the longest time, and we did the recordings on it, played out a lot, until the White Slaves, I think, is finally when I got my Ovation Magnum, and that was lovely, man. I sure wish I still had that fucking bass. They're hard to get now. That's a beauty. I didn't even know Ovation made basses, and it was the first stereo bass. Fucking nice piece of wood, man.
Yeah, they used to make them. I think they made them in Philadelphia because I had a '65 Ovation Tornado or something like that. It was kind of a cool.
This was in the '70s.
Yeah, and, I'm just saying. I think the factory was. I always thought the factory was in Philly because they weren't. And the other one was up in Connecticut where they were making Ovations at the Command right down the street in Bloomfield and out there in Connecticut. And that was my first real good guitar. It was a little Ovation from '72. But where'd you guys rehearse? Where'd you guys do that? Whose house were you at?
Various.
It was in my basement mostly, and then when Kaz joined, we went to Kaz's house. because he was the drummer and he had the drums down there, and he always had a lot of weed too, so that was a bonus. And,
he lived in the basement of his mom's house, right? And she even called him Kaz, didn't she? Kaz!
yeah, she did. Yeah, she did call him Kaz.
He would yell down the laundry chute because there was those old laundry chutes you used to have that went down to the basement.
Well, remember there was a light with an alarm, like man, to get his attention.
And he would just yell upstairs like, "Shut up, mom," and whatever. And it was like so weird. And he had a water bed. And we would just hop on the waterbed and smoke his weed and drink his beer. And it was,
St. Joe's boys.
He was like fucking 10 years older than us.
Yeah, he was. We were like 17. He was 30. So
yeah, something like that, man. And we're just making fun of him.
Dude.
Yeah,
that's fucked up.
So,
but actually, he was the best like drummer. I mean, he elevated us. He fucking wrote songs on drums, and I mean, he was good. He was a machine.
Yeah, he was a good drummer. The
rhythm section always makes you honest. Like you're a fucked up band, and then all of a sudden the rhythm section clicks, and then you're a band. Because all the songwriting effort that you do, all of a sudden, it's working in the background. And that's why I hate most drummers I meet because they're fucking morons. They're Labradors with fucking two legs, you know?
Right.
It's just like, and they don't keep that. They don't rock you. They don't fucking stay in the pocket.
Right.
And bass players are a little easier to find. But back then, I mean, who the hell wanted to? We only knew a few on the east side, you know, that weren't,
Right. They would say everyone's a frustrated guitar player that plays bass. And it's like, no, I just wanted to play bass, man.
Oh, yeah, no.
I fell in love with it.
It's true. It's true. Nobody wants to play the bass. Nobody gets fucking pussy playing the bass. Jesus.
Fuck you. I got plenty of pussy.
Right. So you always talk about all these locals that helped you, which I think was pretty cool because, like, in the late 70s, there was, like, a lot of factions, you know, and I think that I split out of there in 81. So, like August of 81, I took off from Cleveland. I mean, I've been back since, but I haven't lived back there since. But there were a lot of factions, and it's really encouraging to hear that through the early 80s, guys like Jim and folks and Chris really helped sponsor you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and those, yeah, and that's freaking great to hear because, you know, I know there was like always this Akron rift with freaking Clee bands, you know, East Side bands.
That was going on then too. You know,
well, now when we were because we play Akron and there was no zero defects, there were no. We played Jack.
Well, I think it got a little bit worse, you know, before it got better. And I'm thinking, how stupid because it was such a small scene to begin with.
Absolutely.
So how was it divided afterwards? It was like it was so fucking weird. It was like there was definitely this East Side, West Side of Cleveland too, and then the whole like Akron thing. We were in like a whole different thing where we got Jim Jones, and so that was all nice and like Perubu friendly and everything else.
Yeah.
But then the Dark came along that were actually younger than us, and we're like
Dark,
jealous. And that was Michael Hudson under their wing, so it seemed like an opposing faction because they hated like fucking Perubu, and they were always against it and everything else, and it was like so weird. It was like, what the fuck? So I mean, things like I wish I could have talked to like Robert Griffin, you know, back then. Or more people like that because it was like we were all together, man. I mean, luckily we got friends with like the Defniks and Offbeats and shit like that. But
Tommy was always real supportive of everybody, though.
Tom Miller, yeah.
No, Tom Dark.
Tom Dark. Oh no, he was, yeah.
Of just the whole scene in general, and he still is. But
yeah.
Well, was it Modern Emotions? Modern Emotions was on his Cleveland Screaming flick that he put out.
And before that, so that was our first really published thing. It was on Oops Magazine compilation. This tape sucks. That he had it like with his fanzine or whatever at one time, and so we got onto that, and we thought that was cool.
That was the Offbeats guys. That was Oops, man. Yeah, there it is. Yes.
Right. That was Tom Miller.
It came off. I still have the cassette someplace because I was in the Air Force and Tommy sent it to me in Texas because they recorded
Tom Miller
one of my
and
songs.
Ankler were doing Oops,
and they recorded M16, a song I wrote, the final one.
Right.
Well, the Offbeats are so fucking great on that. Everything they do is great on that, man. And with Bob Ritchie on drums and Larry Lewis and Tommy Miller and your brother playing bass, man.
And then they do goofy stuff like bald guys farting and and everything else.
Gib Shanley's dick. You always have Gib Shanley's dick was fucking great.
You're right.
And that was the first time that I heard some like Zero Defects and shit. And then we got invited to that Grand Slam. in Akron. That was a big deal for us. So that was the first time going to Akron. Scott always had this joke. He said, "Yeah, last time I was at Akron, it was closed." So, so I don't know if that, but there was already like this weird like skinhead thing coming up. And what me and Scott and a lot of other people thought is that skinheads were fucking bad. Like they were the hardcore, and they meshed with the hardcore scene. And so we thought, oh fuck, that's like trouble. It was like opposing gangs. And I remember the Defniks even wrote a song like called "Skinheads Suck." You're a motherfucker. It was like so goofy, and they're going, "Should we play it? Should we play it? Do we dare?" So we thought we were getting ready for like a riot, right, Scott? I mean, it was like, shit, are we gonna have to like just throw punches and stuff? And they couldn't have fucking been nicer. They started inviting us to all sort of other stuff. But I think one thing got us turned off where it looked like it got political, and it turned into this one rally or something. They wanted us to play downtown. And I just thought, no, man. It was like kind of real close to like white supremacy shit or something. It was weird. And it was like, yeah, I don't know, man, if we should do this.
Well, Cleveland had that fucking bent, man. I mean, they had in the Upper East Side, there was like a fucking place where guys would go get Nazi gear and like official hats from the Hitler Jugend and shit.
Right.
And they'd have like those marches and shit, and then people would show up and beat them with fucking sticks and whatnot.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we weren't like, none of us were ever political, like we just didn't fuck around with that shit. And like la-di-da, but I know things changed a little bit later. And it's good to know that, like I said, I know there were some rifts, there were certainly some factions, like you were talking with the Dark versus y'all and shit like that. But, there were factions. We were always playing, the Generics always played with the Defniks. Like we played almost every show we ever played with them, or the Revolvers or the Wombats, and we had a very short stint. So, but it was always like everybody got along. We went to high school with Sammy and those guys, and I knew Bobby from Sablock from Brandon and the St. Joe's boys, and Billy was just a little older. He was an East Lake kid, or I can't remember where the fuck he was from, but but it's good to say. Now, one of the other commonalities that we had years later was you guys played the party at where we used to practice as the Generics.
What an awesome
So you can imagine. I mean, I'm trying to I got Bobby and Tom, and we're going to start to do like this offbeats thing, and we're going to start it off with kind of like a Generics thing, just because that was kind of the seed that planted the offbeats, because it all came out of that. And we were talking about that the other day, like we were just bullshitting, like driving up to Hamilton's house for the first time and going, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing here? We're going to get arrested. Like, and it wasn't like Bobby didn't come from money. Like his mom was, she was a rocker back in the 60s with the ponytail.
Right.
His dad was like part of Nationwide Advertising, I think it was, with Ted Stepien and shit. He was like one of his partners or something like that.
That's funny.
So we had some pedigree with money, but you guys played at that house, and that's where the Generics cut their teeth. Like, that's where we learned how to play. And that's when I talked about the rhythm section coming in. It's like, oh, Tom's here. He just came up from Athens. He was like in Rick Ronco and the K-Tells. It was like, bam, all of a sudden we got a rhythm section. Bobby was starting to learn how to play drums. But that place was great. And you'd walk through the practice area, and it's like
go down to the fucking
swimming pool. Like there's a fucking indoor pool back there. We're like, holy shit.
Well, word got around, and people started inviting themselves. I mean, Jones... And then he told the other Easter monkeys, so like there was fucking all the Easter monkeys there.
Was there? Tony Mamoni was there.
And, oh my God, everyone came, and we all ended up in the pool at the end of the night. And that's the first time we saw that Charlie was bald. He took off his beret. Yeah.
This particular gig is, speaking of Jablonski on drums, Jim Jones wanted to play Dead Air with. He was letting me play Dead Air. And we played it like Jablonski.
Went on drums. Yeah,
we didn't play it that way anymore with Kaz. We changed it. Right. But Jones played it like Ricky with the Dead Elbow. He did the Dead Elbow version. So
that was funny, man. That was the greatest. Yeah.
But he's like, "Can I play drums on this?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead, man." So
I wish we had video of that, man. That whole night. I mean, I remember like Yarmak going, "I'm going to put boogers on the furniture." And then we all ended up in the pool. Yeah, I went in this one room, and fucking like Jones and Lupico or something were in there watching like horror movies. They said, "Oh no, we got to watch. This isn't on all the time." And it was like whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And so it was funny, man. We just took over the house, the fucking mansion. I mean, I should say.
Well, it was, and it was, and his folks were really cool. I mean, his folks were cool.
Yes, they were.
Well,
His
luckily.
dad was
and
a
what
big.
was it? We were like invited. When it was some little girl's party. Was it a Sweet 16 or something? Or
Yeah, Tom Miller called me and wanted to use Kaz as a drummer because I think he wanted to jam with Tom Hamilton.
Right.
He goes, you guys could play and then let us play with Kaz. And we're like, yeah, that's fine. But they, like you said, they were real nice people. And they're like, yeah, bring your friends, and there's plenty of beer, there's plenty of food to make yourself at home. Me and Paul, they were throwing beers in the pool. Me and Paul were diving for beers, Remember that? We were like, go swimming down to the bottom of the pool, grabbing beers. It was really fun.
That was a good house.
Right.
That was a great house. I mean,
Machine and shit. That was very cool.
but his parents, like I said, were very supportive, and his dad was belonged to the Hermit Club. You remember that down in Cleveland? It was a very exclusive club. I believe his dad was a lawyer, and I remember he asked me to do set design, like you were saying in high school you were doing for Damn Yankees. He was like, you want to help us out? Because he knew I did like some shit at like Lake Erie College or something for extra credit or some shit. And went down. But Mr. Hamilton was a gentleman. He'd come down with his friends and they'd be watching us practice. And we'd play there 4 or 5 nights a week, right? Because you're just doing drugs, having girls, and just fucking playing music, and you played music from like 7 to 9, and then you went out drinking. It was like that was your pregame. You just fucking did that and partied. But loved that mansion. I thought it was great when I read that y'all did that, and it was right after I left because it was with Larry. Larry was playing guitar. He took my place, and then my brother started playing drums, and Bobby was like ready to join the Pagans, and there was all the shit, from that. So that's probably what they wanted.
Yeah, we were the early incarnation with Larry Lewis and stuff and
right.
singing,
so what were your favorite venues? What were your favorite venues to play? Like if you had to go back and talk about the venues, like what was it? Because you guys are on a ton of flyers now. Like some people, we always joke that some bands just made flyers and never really played, but you guys actually played. So.
The venues used to close so fast. Like Tucky's was like real cool for like 3 months, and then and everybody played there. We played there, Deaf Nicks and the Easter Monkeys, and
that was it. 3 months.
Yeah. So downstairs was so funny because it was literally like these fucking you put punk rockers and alcohol and the fucking swings that were at the bar. Oh my god, man! What a
swings.
Disaster. There were swings. It was like a weird swinger bar or something. You had one time. It was like the Happy Apple or something or some.
Where was this?
Shit.
Where was Tucky's?
Tucky's was like top of the town, like almost thing. It was
top of the West 9th Street, like the top of the flats.
Oh.
Right before you go down to the flats. Yeah, but the bar downstairs, instead of stools, there were swings. I mean, literally.
Swings. And then we played. The stage was like an old stripper stage, so like literally, you had all play in a row. There was no depth to the stage. We had to put like the drummer here, and then everyone was like in a single file fucking line across. It was weird.
The East Monkeys down there, and
there was a big pipe. I hit that pipe a couple fucking times, man.
Fuck
right?
that!
Remember that? There was a pipe hanging down. Right.
Oh, I'd have taken the hammer to that son of a bitch. Oof, that would have been the last time.
Yeah,
so that was it. Like Tucky's, but you guys played more.
And then they had an upper floor that was still. They had the disco floor with the lights, and that's a famous story because we cleared the place out. We used to go down every week if we were playing or not, right? Because there used to be some good bands, but they would fuck up our name in the Scene magazine so much.
One time,
we didn't know if they meant us, right? It was like they would get us weird with like Destitute, the Dissidents, and what else did we were called one time? It was all kind of different names.
They got Dissidents mixed up, so they put Dissidents.
Yeah, something like that.
Like the Descendants type thing too. I mean,
yeah.
Probably drew some people. I mean,
When I tell people that, we played the Descendants, they're like, "Oh yeah, I heard that." I'm sure they mean Descendants, and I'm like, "No, not that."
Milo goes to St. Joe's. That's right. Yeah. But so like everybody has 15 minutes of fame, and I know we like kind of foreshadowed this earlier when Paul Salva was going.
Mr. Salva.
Mr. Salva. And speaking of Mr. Salva, y'all got 15 minutes of fame with a song called Detention that we did kind of foreshadow earlier, but I want to take a break. I want to play the song, and then let's come back and talk about your, the success that had. So we'll be right back with The Dissidents after we hear Detention. So
right.
we are back with Paul Slava, not Salva, Paul Slava, and Scott Stemple. The reason I say that is because of the song that's coming on, and it was terrible that they had fucked up his last name on the credits, but it's actually kind of cool because, you know, it's nice to, you know, whatever. But anyway, Detention. Talk to me about that. That had more than a little success. Frank kind of cherry picked that out of the catalog at Smogville and did some interesting things with it. And we were all very proud of what you guys accomplished, all the old Cleveland punkers, I think. We were all, I know a lot of my friends were very proud of what y'all accomplished through that. So talk to me a little bit about Detention.
To backtrack then to where we met Frank, because he's the one that really helped us along on this journey. We were riding the bus, the old 39B or whatever, and one time we'd go downtown and make our like weekly pilgrimage to Record Rendezvous, and maybe at Mosier's afterwards. And we get on a bus and we hear this one guy. I don't know how. Maybe he was wearing a T-shirt like that, like you said.
No, he had a Clash badge. I thought that. And like Mark was just saying, there wasn't a lot of people that even listened to that kind of music. So he started somebody like with a Sex Pistols shirt. It's like, hey, this is my kind of guy. So
right. And so we were talking. We told him where we were heading, and like I think he said he record shop there too. He might have been heading the same way, and so we were talking. He was relatively around our same age too, and I think
we were still looking for a drummer. That we tried to recruit him as a drummer.
Exactly. So at first, like after all that we did, he said like. I think he just lied and said, yeah, I could do it. And it was so funny. We learned really like shortly after that he couldn't like fucking drum for a lick. But we had fun. He listened to us. And so he liked us right away and actually was a follower of us, after that. But yeah, we became kind of friends. And I think he was going to Cleveland State at the time or something. So, he was studying law. And so we really didn't see him much. We'd run into him here and there. Very generous with his money. Even then, he'd always buy us a drink somewhere. We'd take advantage of it.
As always.
Anything for a drink. And so then fast forward to like about 1999, or just going on the precipice of 2000, and he's starting his label, Smogville. We were actually his first full-length LP, and man, what a trip that was! It was so great to finally get all of our shit compiled, right? To like make a fucking statement out there, to have it archived, and that he was going to do vinyl too. So we got to pick our color of vinyl, and we talked about it. We went with white. We said, oh, that would stand out. We actually wanted, remember on old time records where they'd have the master and you could scribble some kind of secret note, like right in the, before on the outside.
That's good, yeah. And
so
I got one side, Paul got the other side. I wrote, "Your poodle's in my garden," and I fucking meant that. And
yeah,
Paul wrote,
and I think I wrote, your mom works at the Pink Motel.
There you go.
That was always a joke of ours. On Lakeshore Boulevard was the Pink Motel, and I think it was known as like a little house of maybe ill repute. It was this old motel on the outskirts. People always said too, don't swim in the pool. Your hair will turn green or whatever. Just weird stories all the time. Or for women, like, don't swim in the pool and you're going to get pregnant. Just weird shit like that. And so I just thought that was always a burn on someone's mom. Your mom works at the Pink Motel. And so I thought that was apropos to just fucking Cleveland. And so anyways, we were just, he let us have full carte blanche on the album cover, the inserts. I mean, totally helped us out. Also put it out on CD. Said it's going to be on streaming services too. We were like over the fucking moon, man. And so he really helped us out. So that goes on. And then the fucking dude came through for us again, like years later, by kind of still acting as manager. And he said, listen, I think we have an opportunity here.
No, Paul, Frank was a real stand-up guy because these guys contacted him. They were making the film and said they wanted to put one of our songs in the movie. And Frank called both of us personally and said, hey, these guys want to put your song in a movie. Do you want to do that? Which is like, of course we do, And
he asked permission, and we were going to get some royalties. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So there was a whole contract sent to us and everything. Now it's an independent movie, so it wasn't that great of money, whatever. But we just figured, oh my God, we're gonna have a fucking like we'll be on an IMDb page, right? It's like how cool is that? And so it was actually shown in St. Augustine, which is very rare. We're like a one theater town, and we had this little like sort of art playhouse. And I talked them actually I put them together with the distributor, and they had it here in town. So everyone's kind of excited. I told fucking everyone about it, right? We all go down there. My son brought their friends and everything else like down there. My whole family's there. And you could hardly even hear it in the film, right? I'm trying to listen.
Yeah, it's hard.
Right. And at the end, we're going to the credits, and I'm like bumping everyone going, hey, it's coming up. It's coming up. And I see my fucking name misspelled, Paul Salva. And I'm like, motherfucker. And people kind of laughed, and I was like, all right.
We're still laughing, dude.
Yeah.
They're calling you Salva.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
So what was going on in the movie?
They said they would fix it in the DVD release. Yeah, they never did.
Independent fucking movie. The guy's going to go back.
I even yelled at Durf. He goes, I have nothing to do with that.
In the movie, Mark, it's just like 6 seconds. Dahmer and Durf are coming in the driveway, and we're on the radio. So the Dissidents are on the radio when the car pulls in the driveway. And honestly,
when was he killing all these people? Because I'm trying to put some validity into punk rock on the radio too. Like when was I remember? I don't know. He was stuffing people in fridges or some shit, wasn't he? I can't remember. But what year was that?
He was eating them. He was eating people. But
like mid 80s. What in the fuck was that?
No, late 70s.
Late 70s, and they're fucking trying to shill out fucking punk rock on the radio. Okay, I get it.
No, that's what he said. No, Durf said that he wanted the music that he was listening to at the time.
Oh, so it wasn't the radio necessarily. I heard him say radio. I was like, who the fuck was playing fucking punk rock on a radio in 1977? But nonetheless, I'm a stickler on history when it comes to references in music. But the main thing is it's 6 seconds. But he was like in the car with some dude that I don't know.
Listen to a cassette, but anyway.
Well, Durf made he went to high school with Dahmer. And so he did that graphic novel called My Friend Dahmer that got some accolades, and they actually optioned that book into the movie.
Oh, okay.
So that was based on Durf's, story. And
Durf, like DERF.
Durf, back Durf, yeah. He ended up like being a cartoonist and stuff for like he was in the Free Times and in the scene.
Yeah, his first name was probably Fred.
He was syndicated. No, his name was
John. Every kid that ever played ball with.
John Backdurf. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the French called him Durf. So then he calls himself Durf Backdurf. Yeah.
So like us and the Rocket from the Tombs and Rubber City Rebels are in the movie. All just a little bit of background music.
Shit like that. Yeah.
Really? So Smogville, right? Frank shoehorned in. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right.
So he used a lot of his catalog. So then right after that, shortly after, we heard like fucking Mr. Mercedes, which is like about another serial killer. I'm like, what the fuck did they see this song in serial killers for, right? And they were kind of mining songs from that, and Frank got like air of that and said, hey man, I think I could option this into the series. Fucking TV paid a lot more than independent movies, man, right?
No,
that check wasn't bad.
No, we got good.
Did they spell your name right on the check?
They did, and they
that's all that counts.
In the credits, I mean, there is credits for that, and they got that right. So
that's excellent.
But yeah,
can
so
you
we got on
see this
TV, and you can, and that's on DVD too. The series is done, but they have it archived. Still on cable. It's not like they pay us royalties for every time they show it or anything.
That's why it was more, because it's going to go into syndication and play forever.
I think so.
They paid us off, so we got money.
Yeah, we got paid up front. Yeah, so the DVD came out, and it's still playing on cable and shit like that. So
then it was on Ox, some compilation from the
Germany,
right?
Yeah. That was the first time. Yeah, we got it out there. Exactly. Yeah, they love their punk rock. And they just wanted us on one of their magazines, their fanzines that had a companion CD on there. So they did that, and there's this whole like story inside in German, and they got it all wrong. It was weird. They're talking about Jim Jones I'm the singer, and Jim Jones was something, I don't know. There's this weird story translated from German that comes out with a bunch of nonsense. But it's like whatever, you know. We were hot in Germany for a while.
Hot in Germany.
I
That's
think
cool.
Dick Goddard was playing bass, so
That's it. Dorothy full time on drums.
alive. He was still alive then. But
So how long did the whole Dissidents project last? Like what? So how from you guys started around 81, and when was the end of it all?
82.
yes, we started like 79 and
Yeah,
ended
so
82.
the inception in 79. Yeah, we talk a lot about it. It didn't start really
Okay.
rolling or be played out until later.
Like
but
81.
80. Okay.
yeah, we've been fucking around since 79. And 82,
Okay.
that last concert in June on WRUW,
Studio Rama.
second annual Studio Rama, by the way. And I thought it was pretty special.
Me and Paul went to the year before, and the Easter Monkeys, who were still Desperate Energy, were supposed to play. So it was the Clocks, the Wombats, Desperate Energy, and Human Switchboard. This was the first time we went. So me and Paul went, and honestly, me and Paul, for the next year, we just wanted to be on that show. It's like, we got to play this next year. We got to play it. So that was like our goal. And Larry Collins ran it, so we always said, and anytime we saw Larry at a club or a party, hey, Larry, we both corner him and fucking start going, you got to get this on. Got to the point where he would just like see us and go the other way, you know, because we were just hounding Larry Collins all the time. And eventually, he said, if you guys play the benefit, I'll get you on the show. So that was the deal. And we got another gig out of it, too. So we got to play the WRW
But
benefit.
remember, he ended up loving it because we were marketing geniuses. My brother got married to this one girl, this Puerto Rican chick, and she had a son called Louis. And we brought Louis down. Louis was all of 8, 10 years old or something?
Yeah, 8 or 10, yeah.
And we were going in to promote into the radio station, right, the Studio Rama thing, and we were doing a commercial. And we said, man, I don't know, I got this idea and said, like, Louis, come here. We put him in a suit jacket, and I gave him a cigarette and a bunch of dollar bills, and I said, and sunglasses. And I said, Louis, you're going to be our manager. You got to act like a manager. And he was a little character, man. So we had him come in and do this thing. And I told him to light the cigarette with dollar bills and just start passing out dollar bills to everyone going, this is for you, honey. This is for you, sweetie. Hey, Chief, take this, and stuff it in their pockets or whatever. And it was fucking hilarious, man. Larry Collins was busting up. And we wrote this commercial where, he was sitting in there and going hey, Grandma said I wouldn't amount to anything. But look at me now. I manage a group on the brink of fame or starvation. The Dissidents.
We did a commercial on the radio with Grandma in the background.
And exactly, we had Grandma playing in the background, which we should go out on tonight. We should just go out on the podcast with where is he? Where did he go? Where is he? Where did he go? Me and Scott were doing prank phone calls for a while at his place. He had one of those rubber suction cup things, surveillance things, the phone. And so I would go and set myself up in this room, and him and one of our buddies, Norb, would go in the other with the recording. And back then, there was no caller ID. So we just make a bunch of prank phone calls.
Paul was really good. Paul would keep people on there for 20 minutes, No. He was very fun. He would talk like a DP. Oh, I need some help. Could you help me out? And people would try to help him. It was really funny. But
fucking tube bar early on, right? I mean,
it was the old what's that? What's the boys or whatever? Those.
So the tube bars. That's how the tube bar started, right? It became the whatever the fucking boys, they were tube bar.
Yeah, so it was like that, early on, and this was
first. Paul was doing
79.
That's great.
Or whatever, right? Or 80.
No, he was.
And so we had this one lady that just said, "Where's he? Where did he go?" And we just oh, that was it. And so Scott took a portion of that and just looped it and just had this lady just going, "Where's he? Where did he go?" And so I came up with a title for it, and we just put it on that was in our rotation. And then we said, we have to put this in an album. Let's get rid of Grandma because she doesn't match the drapes.
And on the vinyl.
Oh, is that what that cut was? Okay, cool.
And on the vinyl, he asked Frank to do it's a groove lock. So when you're playing the record,
It just keeps on going.
So if it doesn't lift, the needle don't lift up. It just goes, where's he? Where's he? Until you get the fuck up and go take it off, you know. So it's very cool.
Grandma forever. Yeah.
Right. On both sides, it just locks in. Where's he? You know, very annoying. So that's how the album ends. One thing I'd like to mention about the album is it's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archives. So
cool is that?
I mean, I'm not really sure how it got there, but there's a copy of our album in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archives.
So we lived on. Yeah,
not the hall proper, but the actual archives.
Yeah, still good access. Yep.
That's always nice. I mean, that's a good thing to hang your hat on.
Right.
You know, to keep talking about that. So let's listen to one last.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
go ahead, Paul.
You have stories about the about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe delicate stories you don't want to talk about.
No, I don't know. I mean, I imagine Cleveland Confidential someplace in there. We're on that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. I mean, Tom donated a bunch of stuff. I know they wrote me at ClePunk when ClePunk was maybe 5 years in, and they wanted the archive of all of this stuff. All of the bathroom wall stuff that people used to write before Facebook and all that shit.
Well,
and
we
then
wrote one of those. Me and Scott used to contribute to a lot of those.
Oh yeah, you guys were awesome. And it was like the whole that whole thing was just stupid, like how we started it. But it was just like, yeah, that was it. But I just didn't have time to give her. I was like, whatever the fuck. And then then they screwed over some friends that I know that worked there, and I was like,
that's what I was talking about.
Stuck my cock, and they can fuck off. But that was funny because, you said to put the Jello shirt, you donate the Jello shirt, Tim. I'm like, yeah,
right?
Yeah. And they put the fucking, when they put the Spike and Vane, the Dead Kennedys, and the Offbeats go in the Hall of Fame, sure, I'll give you the
Scott,
fucking
did you hear
shirt.
That story?
But
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, saw the shirt. I saw the shirt.
It's
That's
comical.
awesome,
It's still, I didn't even know it had.
It's amazing it's still around.
It's fucking sitting right here.
That's cool.
It's on my 69 custom aqua blue sparkle guitar.
Yeah, that's cool.
That only has 2 prongs, by the way. There's no ground plug on it. That's how.
I was supposed to bring props. I'm sorry, I didn't get ready.
No, I can't. I don't want to split the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to listen to 2 last songs before we come back and close up. The first one,
like I was saying, me and Paul's whole goal for a year was to get on the Studio Rama. So Larry finally got us on. We did the promo commercial, and these last 2 tracks are our last 2 songs as the Dissidents. After that, we kind of regrouped a little later as the Babushka Men. Still me and Paul and Kaz, but with Mike French singing. But
so what are we going to listen to then? Tell me the names of the songs.
Last 2 we did Almighty Dollar, and then Brandon Zart, the Duff Mix had broke up, and Brandon wanted to go on the radio, so we said, yeah, come on. And we rehearsed with Brandon, and Chris Sharma from the Easter Monkeys came up, played sax. So, and Paul and Brandon both play bass, which is weird. So we got 2 bass players, me on guitar, Kaz, and Chris on sax. So
excellent. Let's give it a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, we just wrote it out.
Let's give it a listen and come back and talk about that shit, because that's good. We got some commonalities there too. So let's listen to these 2 last songs by the Dissidents.
Minimum wage, I need a raise. This is the Almighty God. It's our punk rock. Punk hardcore. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's my money? How much do I get? Just fucking more than showers already said. My money, so people are like, get on my knees with my birthday dollar and pray to my God and say Almighty dollar. With my drugs and tell little kids, maybe we'll father kill some fucking kids. I love my money, I fuck my money, so people are like, get on my knees with my birthday dollar and pray to my God and say Almighty dollar. Do I get just fucking more than the shows I said? I love my money, I fuck my money, so people love me. Just get on my knees with my birthday dollar and pray to my God and say, Almighty dollar. ago in another group. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. To a room. To a room. And that's another love. It's only to what of the girl. But you just don't give a fuck. It's only to what of the girl. She would need those drugs. It's only to what of the girl. You just saying no. All the hero man. Fight with her at night. It's only to see what's a good girl. You wanna have these family fights. What's a good girl? Lucy, what's a good girl? We want to have these family fights.
So we're back with Scotty Stemple and Paul Slava from the Dissidents, and we heard The Almighty Dollar and Trip Out. They're the two of the last songs that they recorded. So we already talked a little bit about that WRUW Studio Rama 82 at Case with Trip Out. But tell us a little more about both songs. Scotty,
well,
your turn.
Trip Out, Scott, right, your turn. Yeah, well, like you said.
Finally, it's taken us 60 minutes to get to Scott Stemple, but,
right?
Thank you for joining us, Scott. We're muting
weird,
Paul.
Like we will. So,
you can't mute Paul.
So no, Scott, go ahead. Yeah, because it was weird.
Dachshund.
Like we had to like rehearse two separate things with two different people. So, yeah, Scott, what was that one time with Brandon?
Yeah, we did it once with Brandon. Brandon showed us how to play it. And then one time Chris came over and we ran through it real quick with Chris, but
So Brandon wrote the cut. Brandon wrote the cut.
Yeah, it was a Dupnick song. It was a Dupnick song. That I don't know if they ever played it, but
no, I don't think they did.
He wrote for the Dupnicks, and he wanted to do it. He just wanted to play on the radio, and he came out with a skull mask on with a hawk.
He came out with this fucking rubber mask, a skull, and it had a big fucking blue mohawk or something on it. I wish we could show the visuals because that was just so weird.
There's no picture
of that. He never fucking took it off. He like, hung in there. There's a video. There's a Super 8 video out there somewhere. Dave Atkins, have you got it? He's got it somewhere squirreled away. It's silent, but we have the whole live performance recorded, so we can sync it up.
2 pictures of us from that are Gary Glupico took.
Yeah,
the 2 pictures playing there. I don't know if anybody took a picture of Brandon up there, so I don't even know if there was one.
I don't even know either. But then we had a rehearsal with Yarmak. And I mean, he just, he plays what he feels. And we could rehearse and he could play something totally different, when he's live. So he was just always fun. I mean, he's either just throwing down his sax and smashing it or whatever. And, I mean, there's never a dull moment with Mr. Chris. So that was, I thought, great. And what a great ending. Like, that was like really, really awesome.
Yeah, it was. Well, we accomplished what we set out to do. We wanted to do that. And that was, and when we finally did it, we kind of shot our wads. So,
yeah. And then people were yelling up requests. Like the other favorites were like, we did a pretty good version of Pipeline and really sped up, sort of took like the Agent Orange kind of version and even like sped that up. And then, Scott, we did goofy things like Green Acres,
right?
Shit like that. We did a punk rock version of Green Acres, and people used to love that. That's why when the Offbeats did Maud, I go, oh my god, that's when I knew we were kindred.
So that was a generic. I mean, we started doing that shit. Oh yeah, we did Maud.
And then there's Maud.
We did Maud. There was another one we did. There was the Banana Splits. We did that
was
one.
Genius. Well, the Maud one was just so out there.
And we used to fuck with Green Acres. I mean, we actually played that several times down in that basement at Tommy Hamilton's house. And we would, but it's like, I don't know why it didn't stick, but we used to play it. But I thought we did it a couple other television shows. But at any rate, that's fun shit. As people do next recognize.
Speaking of the Offbeats, we ended up on a lot of gigs with them. And a lot of it, we had similar senses of humor, because they did do stuff like that, So we got along well just with Tom and your brother and Bob Ritchie and
that was we were fun. Before. Yeah, it was fun stuff. I mean, even when they started doing Oops, because that was after I took off, but they would send it to me down in Texas, and it was like, it was fucking hysterical. Like they just had,
they would give us really good reviews too. Like I love that. I thought it was kind of cool.
They had great reviews, and it's funny because like Brandon and Bobby and those guys, there wasn't a lot of slapstick going on at a Defniks set. You know what I mean?
No, right.
It was like,
but I got to tell you, no, they were serious.
They were hysterical guys. Believe me.
No, exactly.
I knew Bobby really well.
Like, they practiced right next door to our drummer, Kaz, in Cherokee. Right next door, John Karosik, their drummer, lived like really like a house away. That picture that they took on their 45 was like between garages right there. That's on Cherokee, man. And but we used to go down there, and that was just so much fun, man. To just listen to them practice. It was like a little mini concert. Everyone was like smoking and drinking, and
awesome, man.
Oh my God, that was just so fun, man. It was like, and then Johnny Karosik was the comedian, man. I mean, that dude was a consummate just crack up.
Ultimate ball buster ever. Johnny was the ultimate ball buster ever.
He was, yeah.
And Brandon was hysterical, like deadpan fucking hysterical.
Right, he was
very, and like I said, Brandon and I started working together when I was probably 16. He was a year older. He had an old Volkswagen.
So he grew up
bus.
in Hinckley, right?
No, he grew up. He lived in Menor on the Lake.
No, I know, but
he grew up in Hinckley, probably. Yeah, there was always this Hinckley thing, and he ended up there. I think he actually owns a game store out in Parma, out in the lower south side. Yeah,
well, he was living in the Keys before, doing
he was living in the Keys till the hurricane. And then
his wife said no more.
Yeah, April didn't dig that shit, and Brandon. I found Brandon's. Somehow we reconnected about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, after 40. Well, not quite, because we connected once in the 2000s, like a Christmas card or some shit. But I went to his game store, and it was funny. You know, it was like cool. Like, here's Brand. I didn't even tell him we were showing up. Just me and my old lady came in, and it was kind of like.
Is he in Ohio now?
Yeah, it's like Parma. It's like some like South, like Parma. I don't know. It didn't take me long to get to freaking Lakewood from there, or wherever we were, Westlake, wherever the hell we were heading to some hotel. But we just popped in on a Sunday, and. You know, it's a game store, so it's a shitload of fucking, you know, nerdy guys. But I mean, actually, his son is part of it, and his son's big ass freaking like weightlifter and shit. Like, I shouldn't say nerdy guys because that dude, oh yeah, he's a fucking beast, man. And I don't remember when he was born, but yeah, but it was like, you know, me and the old lady walked in, there was a bunch of dudes, and it was like fucking Penny walking into the comic book store on Big Bang Theory. You know, it's like they're all standing around looking at her. But Brandon came over to say, "Can I help you too?" And I was like, "Fuck you," you know. He's like, "Dude." No. Well, I mean, I hadn't seen him since 1981, probably 81.
Shit.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him, you know. Shit, we didn't even go to graduation for high school. He might have. He and I went to the fucking Ozarks and went smallmouth bass fishing. Brandon and I, we fucking bass fished. I gave him that first bass. I was telling you, Paul, that bass that he played in in No Dogs, actually, I want to say. Or the Deaf Nicks. Actually, it was the Deaf Nicks.
Yeah, he started in Deaf Nicks.
That was a bass that came from a band from Ashtabula in the 60s called the JBs that used to be on the Gene Carroll show all the time. And my aunt dated the bass player. Bill Green was his name. And he gave me that bass. And then I had it down in Columbus when we relocated down to Columbus. And I was playing guitar, and I started playing bass. And I was like I told you earlier, you can't get laid playing bass. So I was like, it fucking sat in the room, you know, and I'd put it on, like I'd strap it on and pretend I was in Mata Hoople when I was like 13.
Man, right? Wasn't it a black Gibson?
No, that was Brandon. He bought that. No, it had a Fender sticker on the headstock.
Oh, okay.
So everybody thought it was a Fender, but it wasn't a Fender, not to my knowledge. And but it worked. You know, I never plugged. You know, once in a while I'd plug like headphones into it. Remember those days where you could listen to it through your headphones, and you'd put it on the freaking your headboard on your bed because you'd get the boom boom. You know, But yeah, Brandon and I go way back on that shit. But yeah, he does. He runs this game store. He does real well, and he's still doing a lot of fishing and stuff.
When I met him, he lived in like sort of like the mother-in-law's cottage behind Tim Herron. Tim Herron at the time was working for like Viacom Video, but he was like an artist. Right now he owns the Manly Pad in like Tremont. He was one of those guys that started in Tremont, hung out there, and now he does this weekly like drawing and podcast called the Pretentious like Portrait Artist or something like that. It's so funny, man.
That's great.
But, yeah, it is, right?
It's very good stuff.
And he was really like, he got friends with my other friend, Andy Timothy, when Andy Timothy owned a bar and lived above it called the Literary Cafe. And he lives in Florida now. He used to goof on Florida all the time until he moved. And then he goes, yeah, I wouldn't have that missing for the world. So he goes, he was so sick of shoveling snow too. I go, yeah, it gets old, doesn't it?
I just fucking hire someone to do it. They got a plow and they show the fuck up.
Brandon lived in this little cottage back there, and he'd invite me there all the time, and we'd sit there and listen to music and party and go over bass lines and shit like that. And I think I got my first sniff of some drugs of that kind by him. And he's like, I remember him telling me, trying to sell it on me, it's more of a mature high. Like,
fucking sounds like Czar. We shouldn't be talking like he's a business owner and stuff.
Sorry.
Cool, man. No, it's cool.
I run a nonprofit.
Those were the old days.
That was only like 40 fucking years ago.
We're gonna talk about that. But so there's been a lot of project I know since the Dissidents for you, Scott. So why don't you talk to us a few minutes about what you've been doing since that wonderful 7-month actual stint that I thought was like, I actually thought was like 5 years, but it was 5 years, sort of, kind of, and starting.
It was like 3 years.
But like, no, I'm just being, be a pain in the ass. But what have you been doing since then? I know you've been alone.
After I played a few different bands. I was playing with some hippies out in Parma and stuff. But anyway,
that's fun.
By the late 90s, I ended up joining Reason 7, and Reason 7 had a couple cuts on Cheeseburgers Pioneers.
And that was good. And did a CD yourself, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and we made an album, yes. And we played the Pioneers show, too. We played
you
a
did?
Distance. Yeah, and we played a couple. We played Modern Emotions and Almighty Dollar. We played a couple of Distant songs that day. And they were really great. I mean, great musicians and good sense of humor, weird taste in music, which suited me perfect. So, and I started, and actually I played the Deaf Mix reunion at that same Pioneer show. And that, so
you ended up playing. You took over Brandon role, right?
Oh, you bass?
Bob asked Brandon, and Brandon said he didn't want to do it, so they asked me to do it. So me, Bill, and Mike Sherwood, the drummer from Region 7, played the Deaf Mix at a reunion show at the Pioneers, and we made a record. Look at me, Mom, I'm Not Dead.
I know, that's
Bill,
great. It's awesome.
Bill wrote,
and you got like a really good Brandon-like riff on there too. Something that Brandon would actually do. Yeah.
I probably overdid it.
You pulled it off.
I was trying to play like Brandon. I was trying to make it sound like the Deaf Mix. But anyway, that morphed into the Chrome Kickers. So me, Say Black, Mike Duncan, and Mike Sherwood started the Chrome Kickers.
Well, wasn't Digidio's son in there though too?
Kurt. Bill's son, Kurt. He played with us for a while. So he kind of came in the middle, and then he left again. So it was like 4 and then 5 and then 4. But so keeping it in keeping the ClePunk history together.
Right.
And then I wasn't in that band. I started Ethiopian Hillbillies, and that's what I did for like the last 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And that was
and you're playing banjo now, I saw. I mean, listened. I heard.
I play a few tracks on that album. But
that's
listen
cool.
to it on Spotify.
Yeah.
I got a couple. I got my first banjo song that I wrote on there.
That's
and
cool.
They did a Babushka Men cover, the something I wrote, and then Crevo did lyrics to, called the Tar Pits, and it is a great bass line. You know,
it's a great song. Period.
Yeah,
you know, it needs to get played still. So
yeah, I really wish we could have released some recordings from the Babushka Men. That was a great band, and even better, the White Slaves. We had an incarnation of that, and that's when we all became kind of way better musicians. And I finally got my horn section. Oh my God, we had like a trombone player and a sax player. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, it was really good fucking music. And that just went nowhere though. We had practiced in Tremont, and we practiced.
That was Andy.
Years. Yeah,
Andy on trombone and Eric Lahr on sax.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was very good.
Really, really good. I wish that would see the light of day somewhere. I mean, I
got some tapes of that stuff that we did there.
So
that'd be fun to hear.
That was all good.
Yeah, that'd be fun to hear.
Really.
When did you leave Cleveland, Paul?
1990 or 91, I think, right there. And before I left, me and Scott were actually living together. Well, I rented this place in Collinwood, and it was right down the street from work, so it was real convenient. I was working at Parker Hannafin at the time, and literally got into half a house. When the bottom ended up being vacant, I asked Scott, because he was looking to move out, and I said, dude, come on, move in below. And we thought it'd be a lot of fun. But we hardly spoke, I think, during that time. I don't know. It
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Well, we thought we both have our places to retreat to, but we would definitely party together. I think we did it for a while. And
we did. We were struggling to get through life. You know, we didn't have money, and so we were just getting drunk, and it was not a good time, really. You know, so
yeah, it was a rough time, but it was a weird place. It was kind of cool. Big giant kitchens. What was weird though is the bathroom was in the hallway of both of us. I mean, he had a separate one, but it was weird. It was outside of the front door. It was in the stairwell. So that was really kind of weird. And then we had a creepy landlord that just felt like he could come in at any time he wanted to. So he would occasionally just peek around and stuff. And at the time, I think Zach had a girlfriend living with him. So there'd be times she was there and this old man would just come in. You know, or if she was taking a shower or something, you could go right into the bathroom, right from the stairs. You know, it was what the hell? So
we have concealed carry in Ohio now. Fuck it. You just carry a gun. I'd sit on that couch of that son of a bitch until that fucker flopped in the front door. Fucking take his leg off,
really
man.
Nice porches, and we could barbecue.
That was in Tremont?
Front yard, backyard. No, that was in Collinwood, literally off of St. Clair, So mine was it was the other side of the railroad tracks, and I could go Parker Hannafin was on Euclid Avenue, and I could literally walk there. We got an hour for lunch, so man, on one of those rough mornings where I had a kind of a rough night, I would go home and just fucking nap for about an hour, man. And come back a little more refreshed. And, but yeah, that was a weird time, I think, for both of us. Then I said, you know what? I got to make the move. And my brother had been wanting me to come down to South Florida. And I finally said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And took a gamble. But I was able to start my business up there, and a graphic arts business. And it just took off from there. And then today I'm running a nonprofit art studio. We're celebrating our 12th year. It's called the Art Studio. It's right on the fucking beach. Save this historic building. And
what town?
That keeps me busy. It's St. Augustine Beach.
Okay.
Yep, Florida. So I had lived in the South Beach in Florida, and then North Miami Beach. It's called Sunny Isles. That was the one that was very close to Gulfstream. And then moved here in 2011. It's beautiful St. Augustine. And it's a nice little island. And, man, I could call it home. I guess I heard from someone, I didn't come up with this term, but it'll be my toe tag city. I guess the city that I die in. Whatever.
Okay. Toe tag city.
Yep. So there you go. Scott, you think that's it? That's your terminal city right there is where you are now. Now, you just moved.
We just bought this house, so.
You were in Willoughby, and now you're back. What? You're in like fucking Willowick, right?
Willowick, yes. Right by Vine Street.
God.
Oh,
Is
boy.
there still the Wick Willow, or that closed a lot? There was a theater there I used to go to called the Wick Willow.
Oh, no, there's nothing over here.
Right, okay.
There used to be a drive-in, remember? There used to be a drive-in.
I saw Jaws. I saw Jaws at the Wick Willow.
Yeah. No, there's none. We're I'm like about 3 streets from where Peaches. Remember Peaches?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
record
yeah.
store?
Right, the old original Peaches.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
I'm just a, it's not anymore. I mean, it's a church or something.
I know, right? Yeah.
So, just
That's cool.
God bless.
God bless, Peaches, because that was a
Yeah.
fucking shitty record chain. But it inspired us to use peach crates to fucking store our records.
Well, me and Scott got to see the last incarnation of the Drome, where they moved and they were up by across from Playhouse Square. They were in Playhouse
Were they?
Square.
Yeah, I didn't know that. They were.
Yeah, and actually, when I was filming Cleveland in 3D for a high school media arts project, and we went to the Drome, and it was basically Record Rendezvous was cool because it was basically filming a bunch of people in 3D glasses. And so we went downtown and just went on a mission, had a bunch of 3D glasses, tried to film as many people as we could. So Jones was great. He let us even put stuff on his little display that they had outside. They had mannequins and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And then we went to the Drome, and for some reason, what's his name? Thompson.
John.
He said, no. He didn't want to be filmed. Yeah, he said, no. And he goes, there's special reasons. He goes, I think what you're doing is cool, but no film for me. It's okay, whatever. But, I got some of my coolest records there. Before he went out of business.
I just sold almost, just for shits and grins, I believe, you don't even want to know what I made off all the shit that I bought from the Drome in 1976, 7, 8.
I wish I could have hung on to that shit.
Dude, the only reason why is because, you end up on that toe tag city, which for me will be, Massachusetts at the Veterans Cemetery. But it's if something happens, I shit the bed. No one knows this shit's worth anything.
Right.
So there's this cat up here that was
probably,
you've got 6 and Change, you've got the Defniks original, Hello from Berlin, you got all this shit, blah, 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 all the pagan singles. I was like, yeah. And he goes, wow, man, if you ever want to sell it. And I was like, I don't sell shit. I keep my guitars, I keep my stuff. And then I was like, fuck it. What the hell is it doing here?
It's worth a lot of cash.
Believe me, I got over 2,000 for 6 and Change. Fucking the Defnik single was $200. I had a signed one that he wanted better.
We had test pressings of the Defniks. In fact, one that John Karosik just cracked in half. Remember, threw it in the garbage. We went and grabbed it out. Yeah, he just bent it. Right, it didn't even break. We grabbed it out of the garbage.
I still got a few original Defniks 45s because Brandon. Those guys had boxes in their houses. They're
boxes of them.
Yeah, but just
people were using them as frisbees.
And they literally glued. Their cover was they
Oh.
glued fucking copies to their fucking sleeves. That's what
No,
they
I kept one because Brandon wrote me and my girlfriend a note on it, so I was kind of like, I don't want to sell it. And the guy was like, oh, that's like one of the guys wrote that. And I was like,
Even
yeah. And
better,
I was like,
right? Yeah.
like, tell me who the fucking guy was. The guy's like, I don't know anybody in that band. I just know that the record sells. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was like, no, I got to keep the one from Brandon. Even before I reconciled with him, I was like, just saw him again. I was like, nah, I got to keep that one. But it was cool. But you guys,
the last time I connected with him was like just people when the album came out, and I wanted to give it to all of the people that like were a part of it.
Oh yeah.
So I tracked him down and called him. He was living in the Keys at that time, and told me all about the woodworking. And he gave me his address, and I sent it. And I think he was kind of embarrassed by it. He said, if anything, I know he was most proud of. He said, if I was going to play again, I'd be playing with Chris Andrews. I guess he liked that Red October that he was with, and he always wanted to start another band. He thought Chris Andrews was the best guitarist like ever. And he said if he ever got back into music, it would only be with like a collaboration with him.
Now, see, that's what he told Bob when Bob asked him to do the Death Mix reunion. He said he'd rather play with Chris Andrews. But it worked out better for me because I got to do it. So,
there you go. Yeah.
And I got the gig, so that was cool. And I got to play with Abbott. And Sablack's one of the best guitar players around too. He was great when he was
Bobby
22.
was. I remember when when he was learning, like he had a SG, I want to say, and I played, but Bobby wasn't really playing. I was playing guitar, and not with any of them, but like Bobby. I saw him play a couple chords, and I was like, huh. And then I saw him like 2 months later, and he's fucking playing note for note shit. He just locked himself in his room. And I thought, absolutely. I mean, he was one of the best guitarists that I remembered. I mean, but Cleveland was blessed with a few really good. I always thought Robert Griffin was a fucking great guitar player.
Well, Jones was the fucking master. He was the guy.
Yeah. I mean, Jim. I didn't know. I mean, we didn't know them from Rendezvous too much because they were kind of artsy. They were a little off. They were kind of like aloof, to us because we were just punkers, and that was just different. I mean, the Drome was more of our spot because it was just punkier than the Record Rendezvous downtown. I mean, Stu knew us, Mintz, that owned the place. I mean, obviously he hired me to work at the fucking record store, but we were out there with like fucking Giraffes and those guys on the east side. It's like when it did even get down to what was that, the Colonnade or what was the name of that area, that thing they were in, the store. I can't even remember now. But
they were on Prospect, but the other place,
Prospect.
That record, like the Carousel and shit like that, was on the Colonnade or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't too far, but
because Alan Freed worked at that store back in the 50s.
He sponsored it, so that was. It's like the coolest of the stores
and that was,
because of
Lou
that pedigree.
Mintz, yeah, Lou Mintz, right, was the original.
Lou was the old man, yeah, and then he was still alive when Stu was running the business by the late 70s when he opened up the other stores. There was a couple of the Rendezvous, but we were like he loved our store for some reason because it was suburbs, but he let us do a lot of shit, like a lot of punk stuff. Like he didn't care what we were doing. Our manager was a little fucking weird. Matter of fact, he got pissed off because I was playing New Values a lot by Iggy Pop, and he told me not to play it anymore. And I was like, "Fuck you, fucking what are you gonna do? Fire us? You know what I mean? Like we know this shit in and out." And he came in one Sunday. I came in one Sunday, was opening with the third key, and the fucking record was on the floor I still have it. It's got bite marks all in it. I won't mention the guy's name because it's kind of but it's got like, it's torn, like the cover's torn and it's got bite marks all over fucking the vinyl. It was like on Arista, I want to say, that fucking record. Yeah. And I won't mention his name, but I worked there with like Vera Nida and Katie from the Dave Ivan's girlfriend from the Wild Drafts. I think he married her.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
But it was like, we had a pretty good fucking run there. But, it was different than the downtown store. The downtown store was definitely more aloof. Scott Krause worked there from Perubu. It was just, it was a different.
Jones brought in a lot of the other
Oh, no,
stuff,
they were cool guys. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
there was never any
even
animosity.
what was it? They put in the non-album by Johnny and the Dicks, from fucking John. I mean, like, I should have picked up that. It was just a big glob of fucking resin or whatever, and it was like the album cover. I don't even know how much it was, but we didn't have a lot of money back then. So we just, spent on the stuff.
Well, there was no record. It was a non-record, so it was just a record cover.
Exactly. It was a piece of art. Yeah, it was a piece of art.
It was John Cage.
He sold in the records, yeah, right. So,
Well, thanks, guys. You guys have been awesome, and I think folks are going to like this. This is long.
It was a
as
great
fuck.
trip down memory lane, and that's when you talked about the podcast. That's what I want to hear from the other bands. Those kind of stories about the early days, like fucking please talk Say Black into giving some Death Mix stories and shit like that.
I will.
Man,
I have
want
to
hear,
get.
and we need an offbeat. Get Enkler in there and talk about that.
Doug's going to be hard to track down, believe me. But I wished I could. I don't know. Who knows? But
I want to
definitely.
Hear more
I
of
know
those stories.
Robert and Tommy are coming on in a couple weeks to do the Dark thing. Craig Bell's coming on pretty soon. Me and Frank are going to do a whole thing about Craig. And Craig and I had this kind of epiphany of we didn't know each other because he was earlier than mine. We had this kind of similar road where he joined the military and then boom, he's in Connecticut, and then I joined the military and then I ended up in Connecticut. I remembered the Bell System and the bands he was in here, and it was just like I'm gigging in the same places 20 years later that he was gigging. It was just kind of fun, Cafe 9 and all those spots and all that. So we've got some other folks coming on. We're trying to get the Pink Holes on. It's hard to get Bobby to get Richie to sit in the same spot for 5 minutes because Bobby's like, I told him he's like a poodle that didn't get his doggy Ritalin. He's just like, he's just jumping from lap to lap in an old folks home. But he's fucking great. They're full of great stories. And Miller's a historian. Like Tommy Miller is a total fucking historian.
Always
and I talked to Jimmy Image about doing some stuff where I think you guys should get involved in. Just get on and talk about venues.
Great.
Just talk about venues like
Ohms shit that he has going
absolutely.
on. Oh my
and
God.
He's one of the, and those guys are like really giving credit to Ig Morningstar, who was to me one of the best guitarists in the whole fucking scene.
Yeah.
And
F models, right? Yeah.
He was just an amazing guitarist, and they're doing more with the F models now in his late years with Hammer Damage. And Jimmy's been great about.
That's what Frank
talking.
Massery did. Is he just took all of his love for Cleveland and Cleveland bands and just fucking used a lot of his money. It wasn't profit making, and put all that shit out and archived it. I mean, that was awesome.
Well, we're not trying to make money off anything, but it's just one of those things.
It's not a money making business.
Well, it's not. Number one, I mean, ask Johnny Jomet, ask Frank, ask Cheese, ask anybody that tried to do this shit for money. Nobody makes money off this stuff. But that's not why you do it, right? I mean, you're doing it for this because it's good dialogue, and it's one of the few ways where shit will be remembered a little bit more.
Exactly, that's why we wanted to do it too.
People are wiser.
Great trip down memory lane too, Scott. Good to fucking see you. We got to get together more.
Well, bless you both, man, and we will talk soon. And thank you very much for being on the ClePunk podcast, y'all.
All right, rock and roll, Mark.
All right,
Thanks,
talk
man.
to you later.
All right, you too.